Okay, I have hit the record button, and now I'm going to attempt the most difficult thing of all Zoom meetings, and that is the screen switch. So, welcome all of you to the 2.0 session of the Roundtable series on the CTE COVID response. Robin says we have about 100 people registered today, and right now we're sitting at about 48, so we'll have people coming in and out, but that's okay since we have it recording. They can go back and watch whatever they want. But to start off the discussion, this is really a discussion for you, the CTE leaders amongst yourselves, to determine what ideas are going to work best and to share ideas. But since we had an eventful day on Tuesday, I thought I'd put together this quick PowerPoint. I hope you can see this. Sometimes while I'm doing a presentation, I look and see what Far Side cartoon kind of hits me in the right mood. And when I was putting this one together, I looked and this one did, and you see that one dog that he's getting a ride in the car, and he tells the other dog that after they go to the drugstore and post office, he gets to go to the vet's office and get tutored. I know you're all laughing right here because I think he misunderstood the deal and he may be getting neutered. And so sometimes the point is, I don't know if we know what we're about to get into when schools reopen. And so welcome, and we're glad that you're here. It's always great to see everyone and to talk to everyone and to hear everyone's discussion. But for this roundtable series, I thought I would start out by going over what came out late Tuesday afternoon when TEA released two documents, the draft public health guidelines and the FAQ for attendance and enrollment. And these were two different documents, and the rumors going around that these are hard to locate and they may already be being changed, but this is all that we've seen at the time. Rachel actually was the first one to send these to us. She saw them on the Texas Tribune, and I do have them saved. And as soon as I finish this little intro, I will post the links to these in the web, in the chat, and they're also posted on CTAC Connect.
They were taken off because at our meeting just now, our executive meeting, they said the minute they put them on, they took them off. So right. they were just taken off of the TA website.
Well, luckily we have some pirated copies because I don't doubt that they'll be changed, and there are probably some hot button topics in there. But for now, it's what we have to look at. And some key concepts of that is of the documents is that the school systems are going to have to post to the parents and the general public what their instructional plan is 1 week prior to the start of school. And per the Texas Education Code 25.092, students must attend 90% of the course in order to be awarded credit. This requirement will remain in force during 2021 school year. Student attendance may be earned through delivery of virtual instruction, which was kind of always the case. And any parent may request that their student be offered virtual instruction from a school that offers virtual instruction. Where it's feasible, without disrupting the educational experience in practicing social distancing, the classroom spaces that allow for it, students need to be spaced 6 feet apart when possible. In classrooms where this is not possible, they should plan for more frequent hand washing, hand sanitizing, and should consider whether increased airflow from the outdoors is possible. As a matter of fact, in one part of it, they even encourage you to take your classes outside. There's going to be three types of attendance methods and delivery methods. Of course, the traditional on-campus instruction will continue and that will be funded just like it was before the plague hit. So you have traditional on-campus instruction. And then the second method is remote synchronous instruction, and that's two-way real-time virtual instruction between the teachers and the students when the students are not on campus. And so basically they're just watching the classroom live. And then remote asynchronous instruction, and that's where instruction that does not require having the instructor and the student engaged at the same time. And of course, that's probably the most common method that we had going during the plague in the spring, or COVID-19. I shouldn't call it the plague, I guess. Remote synchronous instruction, teachers will take and post attendance as if the student was physically present in the room on campus. The LEA will need to provide students with a minimum number of daily instructional minutes for students to earn a full day funding. And the only place where these two documents talked about CTE was in this section, and it said that time students spend in a work-based learning opportunity can continue to be included in the instructional minute calculation. Work-based learning could include internships, externships, work, apprenticeships, and mentorships. This method also allows students who are taking career and technical education courses to continue teacher-led instruction and would generate CTE funding. Remote asynchronous instruction allows the LEA flexibility to earn daily attendance through an approved plan. All the plans have to be approved for providing high quality instructional practices with daily engagement measures. LEAs or your districts can earn ADA through primarily asynchronous instructional methods or through a combination of asynchronous and synchronous instruction together. The district's approved instructional plan determines the daily engagement, instructional materials, progress monitoring, and teacher supports that students receive in order to earn daily attendance. Again, these plans have to be approved by TEA. How is attendance going to be measured under the asynchronous method? Well, under your approved plans, students earn daily attendance through engagement measures. And that could be daily progress in the learning management system, something like ICEV. It could be via teacher-student interactions as defined in the approved plan. And that could mean something like sending work back and forth and getting feedback. And completion and turn-in. As they complete turn-in of assignments, that's the student, they can receive attendance like that. What we don't know yet is, because it's not addressed, is whether that will be ample to receive CTE weighted funding. Other notable, TEA will institute a grace period for attendance, for average daily attendance, and that can occur during the first 6 weeks of the reporting period, and that's if you're less than 1% difference. And so basically what they're saying is you're not going to get penalized for attendance the first 6 weeks, but beginning that third 6 weeks, everything becomes fair game. Okay, right now I'm going to quit sharing my screen, and I'm going to turn it over to you guys and see what kind of discussion that generated.
Can you go over the CTE funding, like if the students, are at home and will they be getting funding while they're at home on the call as we're taking attendance? And how will we, if you can think of how we can incorporate the hands-on training with the situation of how they want the kids to be a part, like when they're doing welding and cosmetology and all that stuff?
Well, all those are great questions, and we'll take the funding at first. We know that if you do on-site instruction, which is normal instruction, or if you do asynchronous instruction, as long as they're meeting the minute requirement as identified in section 5.5 of the Student Attendance Accounting Handbook, then they will earn funding. And so it's all the minutes. Now, as far as asynchronous instruction, we have no guidance on that at all. So it may, they may allow for it, or they may not. My guess is within a week or 10 days, the TEA, CTE folks will be sending out guidance on that. They probably got hit with it just like we did pretty quick. That's my guess. And then also on, as far as the hands-on instruction, if you're asynchronous, then there's no way to go out there and actually do the welds or cut hair. And so the only way that that can really happen that I know is through on-site instruction. Now, if that's really why you guys are here. At our last meeting, we had a lot of directors and leaders in our CTAC community that had a lot of terrific ideas about how to blend virtual learning and how to get those kids in the shop. So, you know, it's kind of best practices, and I'm not exactly sure what to tell you as far as blending, you know, hands-on experiences with virtual.
Hey, Mark, this is Allison Benson.
Hey, Allison.
Hey, I was in on the superintendent's call, and it was a question in the comment section about CTE getting funding for asynchronous, and they did say that we would get funding for asynchronous instruction.
Oh, good.
On the superintendent's call, and there's another one at 3 today.
Fantastic. And Allison, that if you do get funding on asynchronous, then that plan will have to be approved through TA. You'll have to put that in your plan. And
Right.
that's what we were guessing. I'm glad you heard that firsthand.
This is Kimberly. I was also on that call. They made the comment that it might only be for this year. So we all need to start thinking about what the next year would look like. So we need to do a really good job of documenting anything that we're doing above and beyond, because with the legislative session coming up in January, that's when, if, you know, by then they're going to know the results of our current economic situation, and they're going to be looking for places to cut. So it's was kind of recommended that we make sure that we do a really good job of documenting what we're doing so that we can argue to keep it.
For sure.
So, Mark, this is Eric Thibodeau.
Eric.
Quick question that I'm sure everybody's scratching their head on right now since this all got unveiled just a couple of days ago. But one, our approved plan for funding still has to be, I guess, in our sequence courses, our internships and whatnot. They're having to, I guess, approve turning in assignments or something along those lines in order to get the weighted funding. But when you have some kids that are, our particular district is looking at asynchronous for electives, which then means if a kid is working from home, they're going to turn in a lot of their assignments early or try to get them, knock them all out soon. But then what does that do for the remaining days of the week? And I don't know if other directors are having that question kind of bouncing around inside their heads. But if we have a kid that knocks them all out Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday, and then they're done Thursday and Friday, is there no funding for those 2 days because they're considered they're considered absent?
Eric, on the first part of your question, as far as having the electives done asynchronous, I'm not exactly sure. I hate to be real forceful about this, but from what I read, schools don't have that option. If kids want to come, districts have to offer on-site instruction. They have to. And so if kids want to come to the school or parents want to send them, you have to provide that on-site instruction. Now, to your second point about asynchronous, I'm using in my brain cosmetology as a reference. If you submit the modules and the state approves the modules, then they get credit for the course. And so I'm interested to hear what some of the other directors have to say. But if you submit your plan, and you should be pretty, you should be detailed enough to where you have a measurable in your plan for CTE funding. And so if you submit your plan and the state approves it, as long as you meet that plan, then that student should get full attendance. But somebody might have heard something on another call.
Hey, Mark, on the call, they said that they've got to be engaged with the learning management system or some type of engagement every single day to get counted for attendance that day. They can't like turn it all in on Friday and you get credit for attendance every day of the week. It's got to be something every single day, some type of engagement. It doesn't have to be a face-to-face engagement. It can be just logging into Canvas and doing an assignment. Also, my concern is our district is considering only offering limited CTE courses, like 4, to the students that are online, that choose online. Well, my concern, I mean, the best case scenario, we don't have that many online and we won't lose that much funding. But the worst case scenarios, we have a lot of students online that choose online and they don't have very many CTE options. So I'm kind of fighting that battle right now, or I have a concern about it anyway. Just don't know what it's going to look like.
It's funny you mentioned that because Robin and I were talking this morning about which one they would most likely use. And we talked about how it would be easy to do a 4th grade because you could just have a 4th grade doing virtual instruction for our virtual 4th graders. And so it sounds like what your district's coming up with is a way to do virtual instruction for all CTE. And so that's going to kick them out of their program of study coherent sequence and kick them possibly out of their ability to earn an industry-based certification. That, to me, that would be the nightmare scenario, but that might be what districts end up doing. Heck, I don't know.
We were talking about having remote, and see, CT is not considered an elective. It is a core class. Ever since No Child Left Behind left us, it became a core class. And so what we're talking about is doing A and B, and we've divided our town up into 2 sections, and all the A kids would come one day, all the B kids would come another day. And then we also have gotten cameras in for the class so that the kids that are on the B schedule or on the A schedule and they're at home, they're still going to learn, but they're going to learn from home, and they're going to have whatever the teacher's presenting that day in class, the kids will have to do it also at home. So that way they're still attending school every single day, but they're having A and B, and half of them will come and half of them won't.
I encourage you to read that draft that was put out on Tuesday, because as I read it, it said that districts had to allow students to come to campus to receive instruction every day if that's what they requested.
Okay, so I put that down, but I don't have that. The only thing I got was the public health planning. I didn't get the other one.
I'm gonna mute and smoke them if you got them. Talk amongst yourselves, and I'm gonna copy those links and put them in the chat box.
Okay, thank you, dear. No, but that's one of our plans, because we did 3 different plans. We did all virtual, we did all like a regular, a traditional, and then we did a hyper where it was going to be set up at A and B. So we have 3 different plans because we don't know how they're wanting to go at this point. And I don't mind sharing those with y'all.
Haley had also started working on things like that, but then after what we heard was coming out of TEA on Tuesday, we backed off. And so our plan now is, as a parent, you can choose to keep your child at home, and we will figure out a way to make it all online. And if not, we're opening the doors and all the kids are coming. They're gonna all be here together, and we're all gonna be healthy in our mask.
Well, Kim, are you offering both? Are you guys going to plan to offer both on campus and virtual for parents that choose to keep their kids off campus?
Yes, we're planning for both. And so I'd be very curious about the kits that people are talking about, the stay-at-home kits. Maybe another hey, maybe they would host a Zoom on what they've got planned so far, like a whole session on it, because that would be a very interesting thing right now. You know, we don't know what, but we've had the conversations because a lot of our kids don't have, well, we don't buy the individual license for Adobe. We buy the lab license, but we're going to buy some individual licenses so we can put them on a computer to send home with a student. We're looking at trying to go, we're not a one-to-one district, but we know that we had about 40% of our students who did not have access to technology, and we have been working very hard this summer to remedy that. And in that remedy, we said they can't all be the little Chromebooks or the little Dells. We're going to have some pretty powerful ones, because we've got kids who are seniors who may choose to stay home, who we don't want to lose them. from their program of study, and they need the graphic design, the advanced graphics and all of that. So we're looking, and some of our engineering kids. So we're looking at all those options.
So Kim, let me make sure I understand. So, but they're going all in one way or the other. They can't do both, right? They have to make a choice. They're going.
They can bounce back and forth between. But they can't. I mean, our plan right now is that we would like, our plan right now is we would like to have them all here, if that's not safe. They can, but if a parent decides that they can come to school, but then let's say somebody in the family has been exposed and they decide, we have to quarantine for 2 weeks. As a district, we're going to say, then we want you to go online, because as long as that child's not sick, we don't want them to just stop learning because they've had to go home and quarantine. So we're going to have a plan in place that we can that they're going to have. So it's really kind of 3 options. It's, I may have a parent that for all 187 days, all 36 weeks, keeps them at home the entire year. Or we may have a parent who sends them the whole time, kid never misses a day. Or we may have that parent that, based upon individual situations, has to pop them in and out of school. But so that we can continue the learning process, we're going to be ready to move them back and forth within the environments.
I'm curious about the load that people are putting on teachers. I just got off another meeting that we only had about 10% of our district respond that they want their kids to go to school online next year. The other 90 were like, let's go back. And so we're looking at, we already have Edgenuity in place, and we already have a few CTE courses on Edgenuity, because we really didn't want to place on the teachers, say, if a kid was scheduled to be in engineering 2, that teacher having to teach 25 kids in that class face-to-face, and then 3 more online. So I'm curious if you guys that are looking at the kids that are going 100% online, if you're offering something completely different, or if you're having the teachers do double the work.
That's a great question, Allison. So we use Schoology, and that last quarter of this previous school year gave us a really great opportunity for us to really evaluate and look at what's going on. And so we've been using it for about 3 years now. Within the CTE department, all of our curriculum is essentially there in Schoology. So where you run into the problem, we ran into the problem is exactly what you're talking about. So we go back to school, we're face to face. Now, what do you do for that assignment, that tool, that whatever you need to accomplish the goal? And so at this point, I'm looking at not giving them more work, but really asking of them to provide something alternative for the student in the event. I just had a lengthy discussion with our AV instructor, who is amazing, come from industry, Hollywood guy. And we talked about all of the things that the students will be able to do at an online level. And so they'll be able to write scripts. So they'll be able to collaborate. When we get to Adobe, unless we're using something like VMware, and I love that idea, Marcy, I love that, then there would not be any collaboration from a video side. But that's not the sole thing that you're really focusing on in that industry. And so there's some other things to look at. And before that, I was going to suggest that also there are free software tools. A great opportunity. Nothing should be software specific anyways, because you're really limiting the student when you just go Adobe or just whatever for the certification. But no, we're not trying to put a lot of more work on them, Allison, but we are going to ask, I am going to ask that they do have something for them when they get to that point where they're doing this. And so we've given the 2 options. And so full in face-to-face and then at home. And so what we're looking at doing is a complete synchronous environment, to where the student would be able to hear the teacher, not see the class, but see the board. And so see the whiteboard, to allow for our students to get that instruction. And then when they go to when we do our frequent small group purposeful talk, we can set up Zoom to where they can be in groups and still communicate with students. So sorry, that was a little bit more.
No, and I like that idea, especially for students that maybe have to quarantine for 2 weeks. But for kids that are opting 100% online from day one, I just think it's really hard to put on teachers and kids, especially if it's like engineering too, or if it's, you know, an EMT class or practicum of culinary or something like that, to try to offer that 100% online, whereas we have Edgenuity already, and we already have courses on Edgenuity. That's my concern.
I would only say that my only add into that is that I guess from my perspective, I would look at it from a, how do I say this? Dare I say, self-paced independent study situation to some of these students that if you get to your level 3 and level 4 students. And I mean, I don't know, but I see what you're saying with Edgenuity. I've heard about it. We've used it before, and it is limited, I guess, with some of the offerings.
One of the things that you have to be careful about by going to a platform like that is if you're running it truly as a, let's say as a TXVSN class, if you're going to say that you're going to enroll them in something different than what the rest of the school is in, then you don't get any funding on them until they pass the class. So you run the risk of, if that student doesn't do all of the work in Edgenuity, so because if you're supposed to keep the platforms as much the same as possible if you're doing it in the normal ADA. But when you move it over to a truly a virtual, it's 100% virtual, and that student's not going to bounce back and forth, it's going to be a total different curriculum, then it becomes like a TXVSN thing. And then you don't get your funding until after they have passed. So let's say that a kid goes all the way through the semester and doesn't do the work. But in order for you to get counted for your ADA and for those 4 hours per day, they're supposed to be doing the same curriculum, is how it was explained.
I think that can be done using Edgenuity.
Mm-hmm.
We use Canvas. They're going to be interacting with the teacher every day in the learning management system. So if we use Edgenuity inside Canvas, we can get that daily funding.
Yeah, that was our understanding, because that's what we're going to do. Is we're even looking at hiring teachers just to monitor Edgenuity, as opposed to how we currently do it at our academic alternative campus.
My concern is we're going to lose a lot of, depending on the percentage of students that go totally online, we can lose a lot of CTE students if we have limited number of courses that they can take. And
yeah, we're only looking at about 10%, and we have waiting lists for almost all of our courses right now.
And you guys you're talking about doing synchronous instruction. I'm sorry. Yeah, synchronous instruction is where you're doing the exact same thing. You're just doing it remotely from home. You're interacting with the teacher. You're spending the same amount of minutes. That's remotely from home. And so I'm asking this, that's synchronous. So if you have completely separate assignments where the student's doing it at their own pace, that's asynchronous.
Yes.
And then you put that in a plan to be approved by the state, right?
Allison, one of the suggestions, and none of us wanted to hear this, but on an ACTE chat that I was on, they actually suggested build your entire curriculum based on an online curriculum, because you can adapt what you build online to use in the classroom, but it's much more difficult to adapt what you built for the classroom to online.
I totally agree with that.
Which we're already doing that this summer. I'm paying all of the teachers to redo their curriculum to an online format. But with this new thing that came out, as far as we have to offer the students 100% face-to-face, it almost scraps that, and we just don't want to put the burden on a teacher of having to do both platforms.
So it sounds like you would be able to work backwards from that, though, if they have that online already. So if they built that online, what I hear Rick saying is now you can work backwards and utilize that in the classroom, and then add the hands-on or whatever they're going to be doing in the classroom.
And Allison, to your point, it could even be 3 platforms, because you got on-campus kids that are coming. You're having to deal logistically with the synchronous kids that are watching, or however they're doing, interacting in real time. And then you're having to grade stuff from the asynchronous kids that are doing different work or doing the same work, but in, worksheets or whatever it is they're doing online. So it could be the teacher's even burdened with 3 different types of
Well, I
instructional
think we're
delivery.
looking at only asynchronous. I think that's what we're looking at.
In your situation, yes.
Yes, yes, yeah.
Same with us, only asynchronous.
This spring, when you went remote, did most of you do synchronous or asynchronous?
Asynchronous.
Asynchronous for us.
A combination, because the teachers held Zoom and did frontline instruction. It just wasn't at the same class time.
Right.
So what happened with your different student demographics and their performance under that type of instruction? Did you notice a change? And I know everybody's grading policies kind of went back and forth, and then, we're doing grades for feedback, and then we switched to pass fail, but how did that work out overall?
Well, let me just tell you, you found out really fast which parents were doing work for kids. And that's the biggest alarming, I'm sorry, I'm hands off with my kids. I'm a little different. I believe in, you're going to, do your thing, man, or don't do it, And so allows them an opportunity to learn and educate themselves. But the kids that were having problems in the classroom, for example, student A, problem in the classroom, wasn't taking care of business, parent contact prior to COVID, those things continue to occur. And we, those are sad because you don't have that face-to-face opportunity to pull the student in the hallway, have conversations with them, and try to do some things to work around that. I think that I think all in all for us here in Anna, we had a pretty good success rate. There were only a few kids at the high school that we really had trouble with turning things in or returning or responding through our platform.
How are you addressing faculty who are being told by the state, no, we don't have to wear masks? What's happening with your faculty and their safety and their concerns?
So we just submitted a faculty survey, and I had to deal with the boom last night because they were concerned about some of those things, and it's so difficult because when you create letters, it's really difficult to be inclusive of every single ideal that may be within your heart or the heart of the message. And so there are some concerns. There are not as many as I thought there would be. Everyone understands here that we respect everyone here. We socially distance. You can wear a mask. You can wear a shield if you want. We actually made shields for our community. And so that's where we're at on that. But yeah, we had some teachers that were concerned about, well, are we wearing them or are we not? So.
How is everybody dealing with their teachers? So we've said you have to come back, and what if you have teachers who are not, basically they're on contract, but they're not comfortable coming back?
The ALEAF has sent out a communication that came out yesterday that basically any staff member who feels that they will not be able to come back for face-to-face instruction has to begin the process through HR, risk management. They're not going to let individual campuses make decisions so that it's consistent across the district. And they're asking people to go ahead and start the process now. They know that things will happen because of exposures, and you may have somebody out that's temporarily, but for those that really feel that they cannot come back at all, the information went out yesterday, and it will be handled through our HR risk management department so that it's done consistently across the district.
And we're doing that same thing over here in Mercedes, because they have to fill out a form, and it's got to go through the HR. And I think they're only allowed 30 to 60 days where they can use that leave, but that's a COVID-19 leave. And everybody's required to wear a mask, and everybody's got to take their temperature, and they're asked 3 questions before they can even walk in the building.
For the summer, we've also implemented a QR code that when you come into the building, you QR code so that they can easily track who's been in the building on what day in case there's a situation. And we have to have masks on unless we're in our own private office area, then we don't have to. They aren't making us take our temperature yet, but they will once school starts and there are students here. But the QR code is kind of interesting because it just says, you know, what's your name, what's your employee ID, what's your office number, and then you have to answer, you have to like read those pre-screen questions and say that no, you don't have any symptoms, and then it says you can enter the building. And then when you leave, you do the same thing so that they can do the contact tracing if they have to.
Can you go through those steps again?
So basically, you come to the door, and this is sitting there. It says, upon entering, use the QR code. And it asks us our name, it asks us our employee ID, it asks us what our office number or our classroom number is. And then it goes through the screening questions that COVID has, and you read through those, and you say that no, you do not have any of those symptoms. And then it says you can enter the building. If you answer yes, it tells you to go home. And then when you leave the building, this one's sitting there. And you just do the same thing, and all that is there, it's just your name and your ID.
Thanks. Are any of the districts talking about staggered start times to be able to get everyone in and out of the building and go through these processes?
We're talking about staggered start times because of the transportation. And so we're having to stagger everything because of the transportation for elementary, middle school, and high school because of our busing.
I'm also curious as far as the CTE or P-TECH programs that are out there, early college, how are you all handling the integration with your higher education institutions to cover the schedules for those students in addition to your CTE and just general students?
Most of the college classes are online right now. And that's the way they're going to do it in the fall.
Our post-secondary partner is talking about trying to go face-to-face in the fall. It's been decided that if they go to all online, because we still have to do our ADA, that we will have them come to our early college high school program, and then they'll be provided the class time that they normally would have been going over into the other building, that they would do that. We do have one school that's totally on a college campus, and so if they close that building, then that's one of the things we're having to figure out now, where we would have those students come to, somewhere else in the district if possible.
I wonder if public colleges will mirror public schools.
That's what I'm wondering too.
Seems like they would.
Who have the college faculty come on campus? Have you talked with them yet about their preferences?
I'm a board president of one of our universities, and what we are talking about right now is that we're going to give them the choice, like the high schools are doing. We're going to give them the choice to whether come on campus or to do it online. And the staff members will have to be on campus.
Question about computer labs. If in the event that we have kids coming back to campus, does anybody have thoughts? Are you going to try to do, I mean, we've got 32 kids, if do we have to split those up? Are you going to do every other computer? Are you going to try to do plexiglass in between? You're going to buy each kid their own keyboard? Any thoughts on how you're going to do labs?
Well,
I
that's a
think
correct. Have y'all thought about it at all, Rachel? Do you have an idea in your mind, or?
I have a million ideas, but I don't have any answers though. It sounds like for us right now, it sounds like we need to, for my district, they're kind of saying be prepared to start remote. And so to somebody else's point earlier, I think we're going to plan instruction via remote, and then we can adjust it for in person. I'm just kind of concerned. The labs is really kind of what's stumped me right now.
Well, and I want to chime in not on the labs, but I was thinking on the welding equipment. Every one of our students is going to have their own welding helmet, their own gloves, their own safety glasses. I already have that on my list. Are there other things that we should be thinking about that we need to buy individual equipment for students?
Mark, I don't know, maybe this would be, if it could be maybe a prompt on the Connect, like even per cluster, like specific equipment that is individual use in most cases for classes, just to kind of help us start thinking about that. I don't know if that would get too messy.
I don't either. You know, the computer labs, and like Miss Mitchell was talking about the welding helmets. Gosh, I was sitting here thinking in my head as she was saying that, thinking, well, maybe you could clean them like bowling shoes. But heck, that's not going to work. You're not going to want to put on someone else's helmet. So, I mean, it's going to have to be individual helmets, and people all start buying those things now. I mean, you're exactly right. And then, Rachel, you said the plexiglass, that makes a lot of sense. Or, you know, maybe you might have to have a campus rule that says if you're in a computer lab, you have to wear a mask. I guarantee you TEA's not thought all this through.
What about who's going to fund all the cleaning supplies to clean every computer in between each class? And then is it even in stock? Because you can't find cleaning supplies half the time in any of the stores.
Well, what cleaning supplies do you have that's approved to be in your classroom with kids having access to it? Because your class transition is not long, and we get dinged for that very quickly.
No, it's whatever our custodians already have is my concern. And
which is in shortage, which is
yeah.
in a huge shortage. I just talked to our custodians about that. They don't have access to more cleaning supplies, which tells me that it sounds like we're going to need to either put up barriers or encourage hand washing and the mask be worn in the labs, because I don't see how you're going to accomplish it any other way other than germexing the keyboards, and then you'll run out of that. I know we're getting 400 gallons of it from the state, you know, but.
One idea might be for the keyboards, those keyboard covers that students really love when they're learning the keyboard might be something that is required for every student. Doesn't mean we have to not have the letters on them like we did when we were teaching them, but every student's responsible to have their own keyboard cover.
Or maybe as they start to use the keyboard, not when they're roaming around the classroom, but when they sit down, they put on a fresh pair of gloves, do their work, and then as soon as they're done, they take them off.
For some of the shop applications, I know Granger has UV cabinets that uses ultraviolet light, where you can put equipment in the cabinets, turn them on for like a 10-minute period, and it's supposed to be effective. So depending on the application, that may be something you might check into for your district too.
They have those in the cosmetology. We do the wigs and all that, you know, where we put them under that light and stuff, and it sanitizes them. And it takes like, what, 3 minutes, 4 minutes to sanitize them?
The UV light?
Yes.
Yeah, that'll work for your safety glasses and the welding helmets and some of the health science things.
Thank you.
I know that fire department, and your fire department should have a spray, and it is a 45-second contact spray that removes it. It's what they're using. I learned about it a couple weeks ago. So it's something I've put on my list as a result, maybe to talk with our deputy superintendent about that, because it's something that you could easily spray, and they're spraying it on everything. Like every time, I mean, and I happen to know a summer camp that's using it. And so, and that's, they like, if a kid goes into the bathroom, they follow after that, they spray it. And in 45 seconds, it's what a lot of your medical personnel and your fire departments are using on their equipment.
What do you guys think about putting, we have 100 people that usually sign up for this. I think, isn't that right, Robin, the first couple of episodes? What do you think about putting together like 2 committees of 5 or 10 directors, and have one committee look at computer lab best practices and have another committee look at shop best practices, whether it's, I think, ag and welding and auto, you could probably do all the same stuff, because my hunch is on cosmetology that TDLR is going to come out with a pretty good list of do's and don'ts. But on those others, would you guys be willing, or do you think that would be productive or not?
Love it.
Love it.
Great idea. Yes.
Honestly, I think anytime we can all get together and brainstorm right now, it's productive.
Right.
Because there's so much to think of. Like, I can't even wrap my head around it all.
Once a week.
More groups that work on the at-home kits, like what's included in there. And then another thing I've heard come up in these conversations is the equipment list for what teachers need to record their instruction.
All that stuff is back ordered. I mean, we've been trying to get a lot of that stuff, and it's back ordered for 3 months. So we need to try to also look at our equipment that we have right now and how can we utilize it. Like, we have a ton of Chromebooks on wheels. We may even have to think about, checking those out to our CTE students and letting them have an individual one instead of having them all in one, like classroom sets. You go ahead.
And I met with our vendor last week that we buy the Chromebooks from, and he said they're back ordered until November.
One of the things that I'm looking at is I ended up just goofing around getting a drone piloted license about a month ago. DJI is one of the drone manufacturers. They have gimbals on their drones, which stabilizes the cameras. Well, they've just released a handheld version. It's about $120. You can get it through Best Buy or Costco. And it actually has a tripod stand. And the thing that's unique about it is, just like the drones, it will auto follow. So you can actually key in an instructor and it will follow the instructor no matter what they're doing. And it has a handle so you can pick it up if you're doing handheld demonstrations. And all you do is you just put your cell phone in it, and it uses the cell phone camera for the recording device. So it's a super inexpensive way to accomplish that synchronous instruction just by using what the teachers may already have at $140 a classroom.
Where can you get this at, and what is it's a DJI, but where can you get this at?
They're available through Best Buy, or you can get it through like BH Photo, or Costco even sells
them. And what is it called?
Let me look it up a second while you chat, and I'll put it on the chat.
Thank you, Bruce.
Robin, what were you saying about needing maybe a group to look at kits or curriculum materials?
Yes, I think on one of the first roundtable, they started to talk about kits and what could be used to send home with the students. Because we don't even know at this point if some of the campuses are going to be allowed to have the lab setting instruction, or if that is also need to be accomplished remotely. So just what's included in a kit for the different program areas for their courses. Lord knows we have enough of them.
Does anyone know of a specific vendor that's handling certain kits? Robin, I know someone, Austin, I think it's earlier in the chat, said they were sending kits home.
Saw that too.
What are the kits made up of?
Yeah, so we're working, this is Tammy, we're working on a list of kits. We haven't developed it yet. We're just been brainstorming about the different kits. My example is like HelloFresh, how they do the food, or if they're making cookies, they could put some flour, some sugar, some whatever. I don't cook, so whatever, they put all that together and the kids get to pick it up and they take it home and they make cookies. So that's what our thoughts were, but we haven't got that far on it.
Well, and I think on the last roundtable, I think one of them too was talking about floral, where they're making an appointment for the students to drop by and pick up their kits. But
I think Hayes did that last, Susie, did you guys do that last semester? No. One of the areas around Austin did a floral kits and they picked it up and then they handed it out to the community. I have to ask Tracy where it was.
would you be looking at something similar, like for law enforcement, for forensic science, for example?
No, we were cheap. We did wildflower arrangements.
I don't know that you could do that with welding so much.
No.
Or automotive. Here's your carburetor.
You know, it looks like we got about 8 minutes of regular time left. Would anyone, I'd be willing to, and what I'm talking about here is putting a committee together and not developing anything scientific, but just some best practices for the computer labs and some best practices for the shops. I certainly don't mind doing the shops, you know, the labs, the welding and ag and auto construction. Would anyone be willing to do to head up a committee for computer labs?
It was Rachel's idea, so I'll nominate her.
Because I've never taught in a computer lab. We got some fabulous business teachers out there. Come on.
Okay, I'm gonna type in here. If you'll look in the chat box right now, if you want to be on the lab or shop committee, and you know anywhere up to 10 people or so, just email me at mark@ctat.org, and we'll get together and we'll Zoom, and we may even do some virtual shop tours or something and look at well, this sounds good when we were talking about, but when we're actually looking at it, it doesn't look so good. So if you'd be willing to do that, and we'll develop some best practices, just email me at mark@ctat.org. Come on, somebody with a good computer lab.
We've got Brooke and Steven.
I don't mind doing it.
Thank y'all.
Brooke?
Yes.
Would you mind typing your email in there for the computer lab committee where they could email you?
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for doing that.
And Mark, I don't know if you saw this comment from Annette. It's a great idea to consider too. If we have a teacher, or if we have any teachers out there that are currently teaching in labs, they may have some insight.
Without a doubt. Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at is, you know, talk to some of these teachers, the shop task force, and then maybe actually go to a shop or two virtually and talk to those teachers and see what they think. Hey, Rachel, while I got you on the line here, you posted that update for the documents that were sent out on Tuesday. Did you get a chance to look over those, and do you have you seen what any of the changes were, or did you just post them?
I had not even seen them yet. I think it was Susan that posted. I looked, there's just a couple of updates. There's nothing groundbreaking different from the attendance enrollment.
Very good.
And I've heard this, I know some of you may be hopping on the superintendent's call at 3. I've heard that July 2nd is when we're expecting to hear more guidance from TEA on remote instruction. If y'all be listening for that this afternoon.
Kimberly, do you get to sit on all of those superintendent calls?
No, only when they really share it with us. But now that they have the same login that they've had since March, I guess I could.
Mark, do we know the date yet for the next one? Is it going to be, I guess it'd be the third week in July?
That'll be during the conference.
Mark, you're muted.
So we'll host one during the conference. We'll just keep it easy.
Well, y'all missed some very important stuff while I was muted. I want everyone to know that. I probably can't really think of it. Do you think that we should move maybe to the 16th is the third Thursday? Is that what you said, Leslie? If we did the 16th, how would that look?
That's right before conference. That's good.
I like that because also with the committees, if the committees could have come with some stuff, this core group hears it again, then it may become something great that y'all add to conference.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. During some of the something that came from here could be talked about during conference. Because there's
Mark, the next gen committee is at 1:30 on the 16th.
Yes, sir. We would have to move that to either side of it, so we could do it. Robin, I'll kind of let you, move this one to 11 or this one to 2:30.
2:30.
Is that okay with everyone?
Bring your lemonade.
So the next one of these, what we're planning is for July 16th at 2:30. And we'll be running in here from the next generation, the coordinators and supervisors meeting. Thanks, Rick.
Before everyone hangs up, can I throw out one more thing I'd like to ask?
Please.
I'm kind of concerned about our law enforcement numbers going down just because of everything happening. Is anyone else concerned about losing numbers, and how are you marketing the program so we keep those kids in that program?
That's a really good observation. We haven't. I'm meeting with our campus admin next week to finalize some things with regards to numbers. At the last time I saw, our numbers were still continuing to grow. We almost had a need to have our second teacher. I don't know. I think what adding all of the opportunities for our student really allows us to market to such a wide array of people and their interests. So we hadn't really seen that. We have a really good mixture of demographic in our law enforcement program of study.
There's not really a problem in Texas, is there? I mean, I haven't really heard. I mean, I've heard all over the place, but I haven't really heard of it being a real problem. I mean, I know it's not a problem down here, but I don't know what it's like up in the Dallas area, Houston, Austin, San Antonio. Has there been a problem?
I don't know. Obviously we did all of our registration before everything kind of broke out and the kids haven't been around. So I'm praying we don't lose kids. We need policemen. But I was just wondering if anyone else had thought about that.
Ms. Mitchell, we had the law enforcement conference about a week and a half ago.
Yeah.
And so we had 105 law enforcement teachers at that CTEC. And so anyway, getting to say all that came up. And the point is what more important time for kids to get exposure and to get education about how the proper techniques for law enforcement. And so that was kind of, a lot of the teachers were approaching it that way. This isn't the time to get kids out. This is the time to put them in. So.
No, I would agree with you. I'm just praying we don't lose kids.
I hear what you're saying 100%.
I think it's really good that you're getting ahead of that, though, Ms. Mitchell. I think that's really, really wise. And I would recommend, if you are really heavily concerned about it, is working with your instructors, your teachers, and maybe do some marketing, maybe do some things. I know one of the neat things that we have going on here in our community is that we had a peaceful protest in our community that was led by the Blue. And so our police department led the protest. We had a student that actually worked with one of our high school students worked with the police chief, and man, it was really, really cool to see those guys come together. So I don't know. I think coming out of it for us in Anna, I've had some feedback, positive feedback from people saying that they really feel like this is a great place to be. And I just, regardless of the other things and obviously other things that are going on in our media and everything like that, but I think it is good to empathize and to get ahead of some of those things, because that is a reality. People's minds could change and schedule changes do happen.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
I have a question. Y'all might have talked about this before, but has anybody found a way to do auto tech virtually, found any simulations or anything that they can use?
We've purchased some software or some programs over the years that do have that ability, and I cannot think of the name right now for the life of me. Electude. Yeah. Electude has a lot of virtual stuff. The problem when purchasing it sometimes is it's hard. They're not a U.S. company. I think that's right. So but they will find somebody to sell it through in the United States. But anyway, it has really good virtual stuff.
Hey, Jason, virtually every school in Oklahoma uses that Electude, and it's just now making it down to the Texas schools. But Leaf, I think, said they had it the last time we were talking about it, and Arlington also had it.
And Crowley has it, and we're starting to see the community colleges use it.
Yeah,
based on this.
It's making its way down to us.
We have that in Carrollton.
There's also some simulation from Z-Space. The issue with that is if you want to do the 3D version of it, you have to have the specialized computer. And so it's limiting, but that's just my opinion, but they do have really good simulations.
How come we can't meet like every week? Because there's so many changes happening so quickly. Why are we having to wait so long to meet?
Well, Miss Winslow, I think a lot of it has to do with up until Tuesday, nothing happened for about 2 weeks. And then Tuesday, about 90 things happened. So I know Robin said that it's up to the group on how often that we need to meet. And if the group thinks we need to meet more often, I bet we can schedule that time. Robin, am I stepping out of line there?
No, that's exactly what we said. We would facilitate this as often or as little as needed.
How does other people feel about this?
I am not opposed to meeting more than like once a week or every other week. I think at this point in time, we're getting to a point in the summer where we can probably use as much collaboration and brainstorming as possible, especially when we're talking about, purchasing kits and, sanitation and all of that and everything being on back order. I think the more times we can kind of touch base, it doesn't even necessarily need to be very long, the better off we all will be, because we're all in the same boat, and some of us don't have an entire team to brainstorm one entire CTE team. So I think it would be very beneficial.
Do Do you
Would it be
guys
all
want
right
me?
to meet right after the 2nd when we expect TEA to give additional guidance? That might also give our teams a little bit more time to talk about what's needed in the lab settings.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say is if we're gonna hear some stuff on the 2nd, it might be good to start them up after that. By the way, it's not Latasha. I don't know. I think I must have used her link, but hi guys, it's Tracy Hendricks, not Latasha Wilson.
I thought y'all were twins or Twinkies or something. I didn't know what.
Well, we might as well be at this point. It's just like.
Your picture pops up though with Latasha's name on it.
So Robin, we're talking about July 9th, which is
I
that
think
good with
so.
everyone?
Mm-hmm.
Daniel, the 9th sound okay to you?
Yes, sir. That's good.
Miss Winslow, you think that'll be soon enough?
Yeah, sir. I just think we just need to meet more because this is kind of scary and we don't want to lose CTE funding and we don't want our programs to die and we want the kids to have all the advantages that they can have.
That sounds terrific. June 9th it is.
July the 9th.
July the 9th.
That sounds great. We'll get it set up. And we're also going to hold the 16th on the calendar as well. If y'all don't mind doing that for us too, we can schedule.
Robin, Rick asked 1 o'clock. Are we going to still try to hold like 1:30 or 2? I guess we'll just send it out to everyone, right? It'll be in that time frame-ish.
Absolutely. Thank y'all for joining us today.
I'm going to go ahead and stop the record button